Picture yourself standing before a foreboding, crumbling stone hall. Light flickers in the stained glass windows like demons' eyes. Overhead, a thunderstorm is stirring. A cruel wind is howling around the dead gardens, blowing crisp leaves around your feet in swirling eddies. We need to talk about Kevin. Picture yourself standing before a foreboding, crumbling stone hall. This is what I feel and see whenever I hear Winnowing Hall, the MIDI track for Hexen's first level. Choirs, strings, drums, a distant bell. It's ominous and gothic enough to make Edgar Allan Poe say, "Hey buddy, come on now, let's brighten things up a bit, eh?" Yes, that's my Boston accent. Sorry about that. This music easily fulfills the brief from John Romero, that the soundtrack for Hexen should be dark, not like Heretic, not fast and exciting. And it also fulfills one of the primary purposes of music in entertainment media, to elicit feelings, create moods, and set a rhythm to the action. And mood is what Kevin Schilder's Hexen compositions have in spades. By his own admission, Kevin omitted using wind instruments too much, due to them sounding far too happy. The same is true of high notes of any instrument. He wanted to keep the mood brooding, deep and dark. There's an awesome video by Scott Tobin where he plays through Hexen with Kevin, and the pair talk about the MIDIs employed in the game. The link is in the description. Is good stuff. As Heretic's sequel began to depart further from the formula seen in its predecessor and move more towards slower level progression, the music too grew in scale and darkened in mood. This gave Kevin permission to put slow, quiet parts in the MIDI tracks, as a player would likely spend a great deal longer in levels than in Heretic, which copied Doom's formula of collecting 3 keys and clearing the map of monsters. In Hexen, players would have to travel back and forth as actions in one world triggered effects in another. Kevin essentially created threatening, dark, thinking music. Quite often, Kevin's Hexen soundtrack puts me in mind of another 90s puzzle fest, Realms of the Haunting, composed by Chris Adams. Ominous thinking music at its best. And you can hear definite callbacks to the works of John Carpenter. The MIDIs are not overstuffed with instrumentation, instead they make do with less. The hush left after a crescendo jangling your nerves as you wait for something horrible to loom out of the darkness and mess you up. Interesting factoids about Hexen's OST. The game was initially going to start not with Winnowing Hall, but with Fortress, the music from Hyperstyle. I'm glad it didn't in the end. I feel the mood would have been far too immediately combative and less insidiously threatening. Void, the track for the Heresiarch's Seminary, was apparently inspired by a bass line from John Carpenter's Escape from New York. Which bass line though, I'm not sure. If you know, slap the answer in the comments section. Thanks. With all of this lovey-dovey talk of Hexen, I should point out that I have no less love for Heretic's music. I feel I should put that out there. If the music from Hexen is like that of a tense gothic film, then perhaps Heretics is perfectly placed in a sword and sorcery movie, like Conan the Destroyer. It's a lot brighter, possesses more energy, and doesn't quite fill you with foreboding dread in the way Hexen's does, unless you happen to own a mirror shop. That's a lot of bad luck. I first played Hexen when I was very young. The game came out in 1995, and when we got a copy, it would have been a few years after that, so I would have been about 6 or 7 years old. It had things Doom didn't have: jumping, mysterious scripted sequences, environmental sound effects, levels that didn't end by hitting a button, and music that had more in common with a John Carpenter film than with John Romero's record collection. In other words, it was, and is, enigmatic, darkly magical, and bound to give you an extreme love, or extreme hate, of Switch puzzles. If it's a really foggy morning, I'm there, 7 years old again in Darkmere. If the skies rapidly cloud over in summer and a warm eldritch wind passes through, bringing with it the promise of rain and brooding thunder, I feel the oppressive mood of the Shadow Wood. And if I'm ever crossing a wooden bridge, I hear Crucible 2 and feel the boards beneath my feet corrugate treacherously. Yes, you can say with absolute certainty that Kevin Schilder's beautifully crafted music made an indelible impression on me. One that seems set to stay. Join me next time as we discuss the oeuvre of Maury Goldstein and Strife. Okay, maybe not. Chex Quest, it is.
Damn. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Eduardo and Friends.